things. So I think you're a guy who is the former CEO of Yum. It can't be too serious. I mean, right? I mean,
Right. Absolutely.
so thanks for the book. I have the book, right? Take
Great.
Charge of You.
Yeah.
Uncorrected proof. It
Right.
seemed fairly correct to me. So,
Good. Well, I think it's pretty close to perfect.
yeah, good, good. I just have to ask you about this concept of self-coaching, and when did that become interesting to you?
Well, it's really interesting because, a good friend of mine, Jason Goldsmith, is the co-author, and he's a sports performance coach. I went to him. I said, I'm really passionate about leadership, and I think there needs to be another book out there on coaching. And you know, he comes at it from a sports perspective. I come at it from a business perspective. And it was interesting. The first thing that happens in any kind of coaching situation is you have to have high self-awareness. Okay. And that means you've got to dig deep inside to understand who you are and what you want to be. And there have been a lot of coaching books written. And I thought that the key thing that would really separate this book and add the most value, particularly in the world the way how it is today, is to focus in on self-coaching, because so many people are frustrated that they're not getting the coaching that they want at work. And then that's compounded because they're working virtually. And the whole idea is that, your life and your career is way too important to delegate it to somebody else. You got to take charge of who you are, coach yourself to success. And then once you learn how to be a really good coach, Dan, you can coach others. And, I have a podcast called How Leaders Lead, where I interview all kinds of top leaders. And, in one way, shape, or form, I guarantee you all of them are really good at self-coaching. They're all really good at taking a hard look at themselves, defining reality for themselves and their business, and then saying, okay, we need to get this resource or that resource. And yes. That's the key.
Yeah. So it's I love this sense of take charge of your own journey, of your career. I think sometimes they say, if I had a boss like you had, I would be doing better. If I had this, if I had that, it's like, and what I hear from you is, no, you grab the reins yourself. Am I on track here?
Absolutely. Don't look to somebody else. Take accountability for your own development, and you can do it. And what we try to do in this book is give people a process that they can use to follow. Starting out with really having a conversation with yourself. Ask yourself some key questions. Then, getting a growth mindset. Open yourself up to growth. What's it going to take for you to grow yourself? And then we really try to, help people discover the transformational insight that will help them take their performance to the next level. And then you got to have an action plan. So, we help people do that. And then it's continuous improvement. But that's basically the process that we talk about. But Dan, I think, we're not just like writing a book and telling people what to do. We have all kinds of exercises in the book, as you've seen. And those exercises take you to the promised land for yourself, because I've always felt the most important thing, the most powerful way to motivate anyone is for them to discover it for themselves. I know, when I can discover things for myself, that's when it really resonates. And that's what we've tried to do with this book, is to give people the tools that they need to really decide, how they can elevate their career. One of the things, I follow you on Twitter, Dan, and, one of the things you say that I love this quote. It was like, work doesn't give you purpose. You give purpose to work. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And, I love that. And I think, what we talk about in the book is, finding your joy builders, understand what blocks your joy, understand what gives you joy, and then go through that process of figuring out what that is, and then get in that area with your life. And if you do, your work will have purpose. And, so we're pretty excited about this, as you can tell.
I can tell, I like to say sometimes, you need to come out of your shell here one of these days. But, By the way, on the way the book is set up, love how the book is set up, and the take charge action. That's right. You
Yeah,
were referencing that.
right,
This is a
right.
book that's theory to practice, theory to practice. So you get some explanations, some definitions, and then let's go. If you're going to coach
Yeah,
yourself, then this is the next step.
right. Absolutely. And I've always talked about the importance of being an avid learner, and I've kind of evolved that over time, Dan, to think that you need to be an action learner. It's you can learn something and know something and not do anything with it, right? What this book is really geared to do is be a book that's action learning. It's where you do the exercise, take action, just as you pointed out.
So I was fascinated at the beginning, this conversation with yourself. I'm just going to go down through some of the key ideas in the book. Self-coaching conversation and joy. So you bring up joy right at the beginning of the book, and it's like, what has joy got to do with this?
Yeah.
Business is not about joy, man.
Yeah. Well, you know that it is, okay, and life is all about that, and it's like that old phrase, do what you love and you'll never have to work a day of your life. It's like, why does Warren Buffett tap dance to work? It's because he absolutely loves what he's doing. And it's that joy. If you can find what gives you joy and gear your life around it, gear your career, gear the business that you want to start, and you can focus on what really builds joy in your life, I think you are on your way to true success. So many times people get in arenas that they just don't give them joy. Somebody else thinks they need to go into finance. Somebody else thinks they should be a lawyer, but it's not really. They might have the tools to be able to do that and the capability to do it, but it doesn't, ring their bell. Maybe they should be a dance instructor. I don't know what it is, but it's figuring that out for yourself that I think is key. For me, myself, I can tell you that following my joy has been the key to my success. I had the chance to go run Frito-Lay as the CEO of Frito-Lay, but I love the restaurant business. I love people. I love marketing. I love food. That was what the restaurant business is all about. And I said no. And that was the biggest break that I got in my life. Okay. Because, I didn't take that job and I ended up having the opportunity to run Yum Brands. But it was mainly because I looked myself in the mirror and said, what gives me joy? What do I really love doing? And, that I think that can work for everybody.
Yes. It's interesting because, well, David, just look, go be the CEO of Frito-Lay for like 4 years, 5 years, make bucket loads of money and then get out. So I think sometimes there's this, you don't have to enjoy everything. Just go, make a bunch of money. And you're saying no.
No, it's absolutely not. And I really believe that the happiest people in the world are the people that follow their own joy, and then their life becomes more other directed. I think that's a key thing, and that's why I think this book is so important. If you can learn how to coach yourself, you're going to be able to coach other people. And people are so frustrated. I think I've seen surveys where 70% of people feel like they're not getting the coaching that they want to have at work. And it's up to you to coach yourself and then coach other people.
Yes. Yes. You said following your joy helps you become other focused, and I'm so glad you said that. I grow weary of let's make life all about me, and and so thanks for saying that.
Yeah, well, it's I think you kind of evolve as you go through life. When you come up and work, you really got to demonstrate that you got capability and you're more of an individual contributor. But when the joy really takes over is when you can do your job well enough so that you can help other people, inspire other people. And if that becomes your real, driver, it's amazing how it comes back to you in spades. I found that out throughout my career. One of the things, Dan, that I love doing when I was CEO of Young Brands is I taught a program called Taking People With You. It was a 3-day program where I taught everybody everything I knew about the process of leadership. And I'll tell you what, after 3 days, I was wiped out because I taught that program, every module of that program for 3 days to 4,000 people over my tenure as the head of Yum. But at the end of the week, I was drained, but I tell you what, I was just so joyful. I mean, it was like nothing ever wore me out so much, but gave me so much joy, because when you're given to other people, it's, I think that's what it's all about. So I couldn't agree with you more, Dan.
Yes. So the book has 5 main sections on this process of, coach yourself, take charge of you. And the first one is the self-coaching conversation. I'm just looking at the book right now. Yeah. And you ask yourself these questions, which you give, and that's where the joy part comes in. The second section is the self-coaching mindset. Right. What do you mean when you say self-coaching mindset?
Well, I think the big thing there is that, you've got to open yourself up to growth. Okay. You got to, it's so important to be able to face reality. It's so important to be able to understand where you stand and who you are today. And then, then once you understand that, you can really figure out where you have to go so that you can be, even better, even stronger over the long time. But you gotta open yourself to growth, to go through that cathartic experience. And then you gotta free yourself up to take whatever you learn and do something with it.
So let's think about open yourself up to growth, because I love that language. And, I think most people would say, oh yeah, I'm open to grow. Maybe they're saying it, but they don't really, they're concerned, you know what I mean? There's some fears or whatever. So
yeah. Well, I think about that, Dan. It's like one of the exercises we have is that I haven't done it yet. Just put "yet" at the end of the phrase, okay? And that opens up all kinds of possibilities. That's a mindset that growth is possible. You haven't gotten promoted yet. Okay. It's the mindset that it can happen, and, opening yourself up for that opportunity is key.
When you open yourself up to growth, and I was thinking in your life, maybe when you were young, somebody said something to you that shifted the way you thought about yourself, or the way you thought about what was possible. There was, might have been in elementary, might have been high school, college, whatever. I wonder if you could reflect on that time when someone said something to you that shifted your way you thought about yourself.
Yeah. Well, when I was in high school, I love sports, but I wasn't big enough to be great at any one of them. Okay. So I kind of said, I'm going to be a writer, because I really like to write. So I worked on the school newspaper. Okay. And, I was a sports editor and then the editor. And Mr. Harp, I remember this, I was in high school. He came up to me and says, you are a really good writer. You're going to make $100,000 someday writing. And I go, my gosh, that was like, that was a fortune in my mind to think that. But the fact that he had that much belief in me and told me that I was that good at something, that gave me a lot of confidence going forward. And Dan, one of the things that I've been really, really blessed with is that every person, and I know this is a blessing because it doesn't happen to a lot of people, but every person that I work for really took an active interest in me, and it either ended up running a function in a company or becoming a head of a company. Yes. And so, that's a lucky break, because a lot of times people don't get that person that gives them the belief in themselves that they need. But I'm a firm believer that you become what you think you are. And the sooner people can help you figure out what that is, what you are and why you have so much capability, boy, I think that does, open up a lot of growth.
So I just asked this question to another person about, like what someone said to you or what happened. And I'm fascinated by what you said because it's very similar in the sense that they saw something in you that was already there. They didn't see something in you that was wrong.
Yeah.
The people who change us, I think they like you're saying, you had people who believed in you.
Yeah, absolutely. I had I started Yum Brands with Andy Pearson. We did it together. He was the co-founder, and Andy was 72 at the time. I was probably 45, but he became my best friend. And early on, he said to me, David, you are going to become one of the best CEOs in this country. In fact, you and Jamie Dimon are going to be the two best CEOs of your era. Okay, now I wouldn't, I had no idea really how to do the CEO job at that point. Okay, he told me that, and Jamie Dimon was on our board at the time, and Jamie wasn't the CEO either, but he told both of us those kinds of things. And Jamie obviously became the best CEO probably in the world, and I was able to at least get the job. But the fact of the matter is that Andy gave me that confidence. He had confidence in me before I even had it in myself.
Yes, yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and this, I think, when you get to the self-coaching approach and you take an action approach like you're suggesting, that is a confidence builder. The series of small wins, that's what momentum is. You just keep making some small wins, and so I so appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the self-coaching conversation, that's you ask yourself some questions. Then the self-coaching mindset, open yourself up for growth. Right now, the third thing is the self-coaching plan. What do you mean, self-coaching plan?
Well, it's not enough just to know yourself, and be thinking about growth. You got to grow yourself. Okay, so you gotta come up with a plan. And what's the transformational insight in your life? Okay, that will get you to where you want to go. Jason Goldsmith, who wrote the book with me, sports performance coach, he was in real estate development. He was getting no joy at all. Okay. Even though he had enough money to be able to play golf every day and all those kinds of things. But he realized that the thing that he loved the most was golf. Okay. And that was the transformational insight. I mean, because his wife said, well, if you love golf so much, why don't you get in the golf industry? And he goes, oh my gosh, nobody would, I don't have any credibility in golf. And she said, well, that sounds like you're living a life of fear. Okay. You need to go after it. And so he decided to become the best green reader, okay, in the world. Okay. And he learned everything he could about reading greens. Okay. And putting. And his first big break was he worked with Henrik Stenson at the British Open one year. Okay. And that got him in the game because he was a great green reader. And some caddy told Henrik Stenson about him, and, he got a break. But the fact of the matter was the insight that Jason got was that he loved coaching and he loved golf, and he wanted to combine those two things. And Jason is extremely other directed. I mean, he could care less if he ever made a dime on anything. Okay. But he does care about helping other people. And he's probably the happiest guy I know.
Yes. So you get this insight of like, what is that spark of joy? How do you help people? How do people, find that insight of what, by the way, the story of golf, I think, is in the book, if I recall. That story is in the book.
Right.
So for those who are interested, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So how does one, uncover? We spend so much of our life trying to please other people. Little children, we want to please our parents. They go to school, please our teachers. Then we go to work, and we want to please the boss, and we lose ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think you have to, really look at yourself. And we have people start out by like, what blocks your joy? What happens in your life that just takes the joy out of your life, saps you? Okay. Write those things down. Okay. Then go back and write down the things that give you joy. What are the things that, when you've had your best day, what happened in that day? Okay. When you read your best book, what was that book about? Okay. You know, but just go through that process. And you know what, Dan, this is not something that just happens just like that. Okay. But you got to work through the process of figuring it out so you can get to where you want to go. I think that, for me, one big insight in my life was, I went to the University of Missouri. My first couple years, I probably, drank more than I studied. Okay. I was just a wild, college kid, poor grades, nothing. But then I uncovered the fact that, I got back to my roots of being a writer and a creative person. I took an advertising course and I never looked back. I found what I loved, and all of a sudden I went from a 2.0 grade average to, being a 4.0. Okay. But it was because all of a sudden I realized that I wanted to be in advertising marketing throughout my career. And that guided me along the way. And I have to tell you, a lot of times you have to kind of back up a little bit and evolve yourself to get to where you want to go. Another insight I had, for example, was that I realized when I was a part of PepsiCo and I met with the chairman of PepsiCo, he thought I was a really good marketing guy, but he didn't think I could ever run a company. Okay, because he didn't know that I could run a P&L or get into the details of operations or whatever. So after I had one big meeting with him one time where he told me, hey, you could be president of PepsiCo marketing, but I don't see you as the head of one of our divisions. I knew that I had to get an operating role to show that I was more than just a marketing guy. That was a big, big insight. Okay. Because I knew how other people were looking at me as well. And that helped me uncover the fact that, I needed to get out there and show somebody that I could, get into details, not just be the creative guy, but actually really run a business. So I begged my boss to have the opportunity to be the chief operating officer of Pepsi-Cola Company and got that job and, did it well enough to where I could get promoted to become president of KFC. And the rest for me was history. But I had to have that transformational insight to get that done.
Yes. The joy. I just got to say it again, because I think this, you start off with that, and there's a reason why you're starting off in the book with that. And, what are your joy blockers? Love the language, by the way, very clear, simple language.
Thank you.
The joy thing, what do they say? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And people ask me sometimes, Dan, how do you do what you do? You get up, you write every day, you're, and it's like, how do you not do it? It's like, you know what I mean? It's not drudgery.
You can't wait to do it. I left Yum Brands, and I say left in 2016. I left. I don't think I ever retired. Ken Blanchard talks about refiring. Well, I refired. I didn't retire. And what did I focus on? I focused on leadership development, because when I look back at what gave me the most joy when I was at work, it was developing leaders. And it was also recognition. It was creating a culture of recognition. So, I right off the back, I wrote a book on recognition called Oh Great One. It was a parable based on, my experiences. And then I started David Novak Leadership, and our company is really designed to develop leaders at every level, from elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and then aspiring leaders. And we have brands and programs within that entire framework. But you know what? I love it. I mean, this is fun. I mean, it's fun talking about my book right now with you, because I know we're going to sell some books. And I know that we're going to help people improve their lives. And, we've already got a lot of companies that jumped on the bandwagon, and they're going to be, rolling out this book with training programs, because I think it's so well timed. Because, think about all the people that are working virtually out there that don't have that human contact that they need, don't get the coaching that they want. So, I'm pumped up about being able to help people.
Yes. Now, you 5 nonprofits that I think are all related to the training thing. Now, if I remember this right, you correct me if I'm wrong. What's motivating you to kind of use this channel this way and get in the nonprofit space?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have been very blessed, and I don't need money. I've been very successful. I've made a lot of money, and I want to give it back. Okay. I don't want to die with a lot of money. Okay. And, so I want to make sure that I focus in on the areas that I'm passionate about. So leadership development is one. Okay. My wife's a type 1 diabetic. So diabetes is another. Okay. Hunger. I really believe that, Jesus fed the hungry, and the hunger need to be fed. And, for me, helping people get more meals is a really big thing. Early childhood education. If you don't have an opportunity when you're young, you'll never have it. The 3 to 5 year olds, that's when you got to get things going, and then, veteran support is really important to me, because I never served in the Army. Yet I get to live in this country. And, so those are my passion areas that I really want to give back to. So our Lift Alive Foundation is focused on those areas. And where I spend the most of my time is on the leadership development.
Okay. Right. So the book goes through, I'm going to circle back on the book because that's really the reason we're here, right? So the self-coaching conversation, the self-coaching mindset, open yourself up to growth, the self-coaching plan, uncover transformational insights, and know yourself well and follow that passion. Number 4 is the self-coaching journey. Take insightful action. Now we're cooking with gas, baby. Action. Talk to me about this.
Yeah. Well, if I would have had that meeting with the chairman of PepsiCo and he said, "You're a really good marketing guy," and I'd have just gone back and said, "Gee, he doesn't realize how good a leader I really am and what I can do," then I'd still be a marketing person at PepsiCo or whatever. Okay. But I went from that and said, "Holy cow, I gotta show some people that I got it in me." So that's when I went to the president of the CEO of Pepsi-Cola at the time and begged for the chief operating job. And I got it. And then I didn't know anything about operations. So then it was like, how do I survive? And I realized that the only way I could survive was to get the people that knew a lot about operations to help me. So I brought them all in, the top guys and women, and said, "Look, I don't know operations. I need you. You know what needs to be done. You tell me what it is, and I'll use my power to go make it happen for you." Okay. And for our company. But all of that was very action oriented. It wasn't like, "Oh, gee, people need to understand how great I am."
Mm-hmm. Right. Beautiful. And the last section on the book is the self-coaching habit. It says, commit to constant improvement. I have to tell you, I'm really concerned about leaders today because they're using the current context as an excuse to eliminate self-development and self-care. We're in a crisis mode. We got to do this. We got to do this. One thing to the next. Chase. Yeah. And then they go away and they crash and burn for a few days. And then they come back and do the same thing. And it's like, no. You got to improve yourself. You got to work on things. If you don't, you're going to circle the same tree and come back to the same place. Absolutely. So I love this idea of commit to constant improvement. What do you say to encourage people about this?
Well, is that, I think John Wooden said it, once you think you know it all, you're through. Okay. And to me, you got to be constantly polishing the apple. Life is a journey and you don't want to be satisfied with where you're at. You want to keep improving where you're at. And one of the things I talk about in the book, Dan, is what I do every January. It's called my 3x5 exercise. It's really a note card where I write down, what am I today? What do I need to be tomorrow? Okay. And, but I'd look at the self-reflection of what I am today and then say, okay, what do I need to be tomorrow? Okay. Like when I was, and I've done that for years, when I was running Young Brands, for example, and it's true today, and you kind of mentioned it up front. Like I'm not a shy person. Okay. I'm very passionate about what I do. So what am I today? I'm passionate. I'm energetic. What do I have to be conscious of tomorrow? Okay. Is not overwhelming people, because my passion and energy can overwhelm people.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and so I got to be cognizant of that. I thought of that just when you mentioned that up front. It's like I was coming out of the box. I was really excited to have a podcast with, with Dan Rockwell, and all of a sudden, if you're not careful, you can be talking so much you never listen.
Yes. Yeah. There's some brilliant insight. And I think, again, driven leaders can do this. And you're not going to get a great team when that happens. We're a little off topic here, but I mean, it is such a powerful idea of like, ooh, if you step back a little bit, maybe they'll step in, but if you step in, they're going to step back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, that's part of the growth mindset is having humility. Okay. Yeah. Humility means you don't know it all. Humility says to other people, you need them. Okay. And, I think that's what you have to be humble to say, hey, I got to take accountability for my life, my career. I got to own this. Okay. Now I know there's a lot of I in that, but the fact of the matter is that's what gets you to move from me to we. Okay. Yes. You got to start out with yourself first.
Well, I love that you brought up humility. We're at the end of our time, and I love that you brought it up. It's my favorite topic. I'm glad to end on that part of the conversation. Thanks again for the book. It is fantastic. I hope everybody reads it and puts it in, and more importantly, puts it into practice, takes action, and get where you want to go in life. Thank you so much, David, for your time and for the book.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it very much. And thank you for all you're doing. And, I enjoy your stuff that you got, you're obviously care about other people and are making a difference out there.
Well, thank you.